Memory is a curious thing. You can't touch it, you can't change it, you can't give it away. It's the one possession that's entirely your own. Even the milestones are subjective. In football, a lineman's memories will differ from those of the quarterback. Same game, different perspective. But what endures over time is the shared sense of accomplishment, what was overcome, and what was achieved. And what of perfection? Some say it's an illusion, that perfect plays exist only on paper or in our dreams. But that's not how we remember it. We only remember the winning, because the winning is all that matters. 50 years ago, the Miami Dolphins made history as the first NFL team to complete a perfect season. That same year, 1972, a little school in Chester, Pennsylvania, was also perfect. They were the St.James Bulldogs, undefeated champions of the Catholic League, city champions of Philadelphia. This is their story.
Score again, you mighty Bulldog, hold aloft the blue and the gray.
Our expectations, and I'm mainly talking about the seniors, goes all the way back to when we were freshmen. And we looked around few times and looked at each other and went, you know what? When we're seniors, there's nobody going to beat us.
And Lo kept saying, hey, you guys, if you guys, and he used to say, yay, Wifties, you know, if you guys get your act together, you just may be something, you know. So we went back and we worked, and it was serious stuff. And I think everybody, from the time that we went into freshman to that camp, matured.
The one thing I liked about this 72 team, and this is going to sound like we're really bragging, but I really mean it. It wasn't if we're going to win, it was how bad are we going to beat these guys. Every game we played, that was the thought in my head. I know we're going to win, so, and now let's make it fun. You know?
Let's go Bulldogs, let's go. Let's go Bulldogs, let's go. Let's go Bulldogs, let's go.
What I remember about Ryan was it was a really hot day. Personally, I remember about gasping for air. Just getting through that game, right? It was just survival is what I remember about Ryan.
You know, we were going to bulldoze people, and we knew who we were, and that's what we did to Ryan. We just took over the game, and our sides just dominated.
We had people that they would walk out and kind of lead us onto the field. People would think, holy gosh, I mean, Jake he couldn't get shoes to fit. He had to get the Philadelphia Eagles to supply a shoe for him, for his size 15 foot or whatever the heck it was.
There was something special about the team, and I noted it then. I didn't realize what it was at the time. The synergy of the players, you could just feel it. It was fun to be on the team. And it didn't matter who you were supported by your teammates. So there was something special about the team.
Push them back, shove them back, way back. Push them back, shove them back, way back. Push them back, shove them back.
That might have been the first year Sun Valley put up lights. And so, again, Friday night, there was 1 or 2 games on Friday night. So you all went to Sun Valley to see St. James in the opening game, and they came out and it was like, oh boy.
I think that was the birth of the Dogs. Like I said, we were losing halftime, and Bob Ewing, the clipboard went flying across the room, and maybe even a couple players, I don't know. And the locker room wasn't a pleasant place to be. And we came out fired up and whatnot after the coaches read us the riot act.
Go St. James, West Catholic. Go St. James, West Catholic. Go St. James.
West Catholic, quicker than we thought, right? The team was quicker than we thought. Probably the team where I had my first fumble of the year.
We had one game where we were down that I know by halftime, which was West Catholic. 12-0 at the half. Yeah, we got them in there, and everybody was all walking in. Kids already got their heads down. I was at that door, man. Let's get your head up.
And I know Mr. Ewing would certainly let me know what was on his mind, and not that he wasn't right, he was right. But we didn't get rattled. I thought that the coaching staff knew that we had a good squad, and it's a two-half game, it's not a one-half game. And we would wear people down, and if we just did our job, at the end of the game, we'd be ahead.
Here we go, Bulldogs, here we go. Here we go, Bulldogs, here we go.
St. Joe Prep, I think we were physically much bigger than they were. So I think we physically dominated St. Joe Prep.
I think we always felt that we were going to be, the #1 team in the area. I mean, if you look at the talent that's there, I mean, the front four, the athletic, guys on the team.
We all gelled. We all got along. We were really, really good friends. We were a football team, and that was the first thing. We were the football team, and we hung out together. That's the biggest part of the whole thing, is that we got together and stayed together. That was the cool part.
And I think about the unselfishness of everybody on the team. Like, nobody was really a prima donna. Everybody was out. Their #1 statistic was to win the game, and they didn't really care about overall success of themselves. It was more of a team effort. And that's what really stands out to me.
First and 10, first and 10, come on, boys, do it again. First and 10, first and 10, come on, boys.
Roman was just scary. Just going up there in a bus, getting hit with rocks and various things, and playing on a field that was, felt like concrete.
29th and Clearfield is what I remember most about it. It's what sticks, the first thing that comes to my mind. It's playing on that obscure field on 29th and Clearfield.
Fumble it, F-U-M-B Elliott. Fumble it, F-U-M-B Elliott. Fumble it.
Carroll's the one that got 2 onside kicks the year before, to beat us. We got revenge on them guys.
Before the Carroll game, Carroll was kind of just finishing out the season, and we were going the other way, and we came out before the game really psyched up because of what happened the year before, and they were kind of like looking at us like, what's wrong with these guys? We're just finishing out the season, and they didn't know it. They didn't know what was coming.
Go St. James, go St. James,
O'Hara scared us just because they were a technical team. They were well coached, very deliberate, and we, just took our game plan. And we just did our trapping. We did our, our aggressive running the ball. We took over the game as well, in the long run.
It was just one of those freak shows that everybody came together at the same time, and it was just, the intensity level was incredible, and you fed off of it. You knew when you went over the ball, you better get it done right, because these guys meant business.
Push him back, shove him back, way back. Push him back, shove him back, way back.
Newman was a lot of big Italian boys. We ended up beating them, but they was a gritty team.
We were playing men. They were men. They had full beards.
War, physical, bruises at 12th and Bigler. It was an outright battle. We were better than them, but I would say that's probably the most physical game we played all year. And their intention was that. I don't think they cared much about beating us, but they wanted to beat us up.
We had Joe Hawansky. His nickname was Joe Hate, but we loved that man. I mean, there was nothing we wouldn't do for him. We were dressed for the team picture, and then Mr. Hawansky came out and tells a story about never giving up, never quitting. And he talked about his sister, who was dying of cancer. And he said, how she never gave up to the very end. And he told us, you guys shouldn't either. And when he walked off, God forbid, the next guy that stood in front of us. That's all I can say about that. It was the most motivating speech I ever heard.
Hit him again, harder, harder, hit him again, harder.
Bonner couldn't wait for that game. The whole week we were up.
It was for all the marbles, basically. Showdown. Very talented team.
To have that stadium filled like that, and the write-ups and everything, the pre-game, it was just awesome. And we just wanted to show them that we own Delaware County, we own, the Southern Division, the Catholic League, and yeah, we did.
Yeah, when they played Bonner down at PMC Stadium, and what was it, 10,000 people, the pictures in the paper, people sitting in trees, hanging on roofs and all, and Bonner was, this could be the game, this could be the one that they just rolled in that game and just handled Bonner, and it was like, okay, they just did that to Bonner, who's gonna stop them?
We are the Bulldogs, mighty Bulldogs. Everywhere we go, people wanna know who we are.
Chester High, we knew, we weren't going to let them destroy it. What we had done so far, it wasn't going to happen. So we just knew it was that confidence.
Once again, we had to rely on the straight power game. That the finesse game had to take a back seat. And I remember Frank Finn having to say, okay, that's it. That's the end of this. We're just going to start pounding them right now. And him saying that in the huddle and seeing 10 other smiles, like, that's our game, That's our game.
We scrimmaged Kenrick that year up at Chester Park, and they had a real strong team, and Chappie Moore was their coach there, and he was a big name back then as a head coach. But the way I always was, I didn't have that in my mind that we want to win this scrimmage, but we better not lose it. You know what I mean? But it was a heck of a game, and we could see that they were a strong team. And I reminded the kids of that at halftime of the game, of our game with them at Villanova, which to me was the greatest high school game I was ever in.
We knew we played a tough schedule in the Northern Division. We played some very, very good football teams. We knew, since we scrimmaged St. James in the preseason, we knew their capabilities. So we felt very, very confident going into the game.
Chappie had a lot of vinegar. I mean, he really had a lot of spice to whatever he wanted to do. He would go on and put a helmet on and get down in a 4-point stance and tell the offensive lineman to fire out on him, and he would take them on and show, see what I mean? Technique. We really weren't afraid of anybody. I'll tell you what, the Chester kids are tough, but I'll tell you what, the kids from Norristown are just as tough.
Welcome to a packed Villanova Stadium for the 1972 Philadelphia Catholic League Championship football game between the Southern Division champs, the St. James Bulldogs, and the Northern Division winners, the Bishop Kendrick Knights. This should be a great game, Herbie. What do you expect?
Well, Bud, these two teams have been on a collision course all year. St. James is big and fast and mean, and Kendrick is big and fast and mean. So one will have to be bigger, faster, and meaner. Both teams have had recent near misses in the championship game, with Kendrick losing to Carroll last year and St. James falling short in the championship game twice in the last 3 years. Should be a battle royale between two exceptional football teams. When it's all done, someone's going to be champs.
We had a little bit of butterflies. We knew we had to come out and focus on what we needed to do. And I think we caught St. James a little off guard. I really do. I think in their back of their minds, they remember us playing in the summer, and I really believe they thought they had our number. I really believe that, and I think that worked to our advantage, to be honest with you, in the first half. They scored, then there was a couple turnovers in the game there, fumbles on the 1-yard line. I mean, things that normally St. James would have cashed straight in on, and obviously they didn't. And that gave us life as we kept moving. So the ebb and flow of the game in the first half, we felt we could really play with them because I said we were leading at halftime, and we felt very good about that.
It's halftime here at Villanova Stadium, with Kendrick holding a slim 14-7 lead at the break. St. James looked to be rolling at the start of the game, capping an impressive first quarter march with a 7-yard touchdown run by Tony Surge. But Kendrick answered with 2 scores, including a 64-yard run by Jim Gennardi after a St. James fumble. What do you see, Herbie?
St. James has been hurting themselves on offense with mistakes, but the big surprise is the way Kendrick has been able to move the ball against the St. James monster defense. The Bulldogs have been down at the half a couple of times this year and have always come out of the locker room able to take charge. We'll see whether they can do that again today.
We felt that we had to keep the ball away from them, and we were pretty good at that. We were 4 yards in a cloud of dust, and so we could eat the clock up on you. But you know, if they were going to put a lot of points up, which they were capable of doing, we knew we were going to have our hands full.
Not many teams could stop our running attack, and I wouldn't say they stopped our running attack, but they sort of like contained it. And so I think the coaches felt that we needed to do something else in the second half, and they started opening up the offense a little bit more.
We kind of drug ourselves into the locker room, not knowing, whether this is going to be our game or not. And the coaches kind of went off on us for being lackadaisical and making too many mistakes. And when we came out of the second half, we were led by our big guys, Jim Clow, Gal, Vermally, Frank Finn, walked out of the locker room in single file. No hooping and hollering, no nothing. Single file out of the locker room, down the sideline, until we all basically got into the middle. And then we went off.
Like, we had already been in that situation where we've got a half of football to do this. So in that game, when we were in that situation, we were losing, we were all pretty confident, to be honest with you. We had faith that we were going to pull it out.
The long third quarter TD pass from Kevin Dare to Bill Warrington really seemed to spark St. James, getting them to within 1 point at 14-13. And then here at the beginning of the fourth quarter, they looked to be set up to return to their power running game with the ball on Kendrick's 35-yard line. But now the holding penalty pushes them back and gives them a 1st and 25 at midfield. That's a big chunk of yardage to cover over 4 downs. With just 1 quarter left to play, the Bulldogs could be in trouble.
Joe was pretty tough. I mean, he was a great head coach, and it was hard to get stuff in other than trying to explain, Joe, this team is going to be as good as us. We scrimmaged and we know that. We got to have some gimmick somewhere, whether it's a fake punt or whatever.
Okay, sports fans, here we go to the start of the fourth quarter with Kendrick up by 1. Quarterback Kevin Dare takes the snap and hands off to Surge, sweeping to his right. Not a lot of room for Surge, but he gives the ball to Warrington, headed in the opposite direction on a reverse play. Kendrick has Warrington bottled up, but whoa! Warrington hands the ball off to Dave Kozarski, who's running back to the left on a double reverse.
And I noticed they're playing a zone because they're not even looking at me. They're looking in our backfield. So I just take off. I just keep running.
Kozarski has some running room, but wait! He's looking to throw downfield.
I couldn't see Kevin at first, Then all of a sudden, the guys from Kendrick were coming on me, and I see Kevin like darting down the middle of the field.
I just feel them leaving me, and I'm saying, this is great, and I'm waving. I got my hand in the air, and I'm waving, Dave, Dave, Dave.
And then all of a sudden, I would look at the play, I see Kevin Dare going down the Villanova sideline, wide open. And I just said, oh my God, can that kid make that throw?
Quarterback Dare has a step behind the Kendrick defense. Kozarski loves a high-arching pass towards the streaking Dare.
And I just threw it. It was a Hail Mary. I threw it as far and as long as I could. And then I got buried.
I'm watching the ball, and I'm just running, and I'm running. And I noticed that there's guys near me but they're behind me.
Who grabs it in full stride, and he sprints into the end zone for a 50-yard double reverse touchdown pass, and St. James takes the lead.
I didn't see him make the catch. Strange thing is when I was on the ground, I looked up at our fans, and I could see them all stand up in unison, and they were screaming their heads off. And I said, something's good happened. And I said, damn it, Kevin caught that ball. And damn if he didn't.
All I know is the ball ends up in my hands. I've got about a 10-yard sprint into the end zone. Nobody touches me, and it was one of the best moments of my life. Yeah.
And so I had the base block the guy in front of me. That's all I really was concerned about, and that's all I thought about until I heard the roar of the crowd. And then I knew something, it worked. It worked.
People were going crazy and jumping up and down and screaming and yelling. And you want the scoreboard to come on with a replay or something like that and say, I want to see that again. And they must have had that one stashed in the back pocket somewhere, and all of a sudden it's like, that was just like, wow, that happened, wow. It's just amazing.
We just didn't get enough pressure, and that enabled them to, start one way, hand the ball off, then hand the ball off the other way, and hand the ball coming back to the quarterback.
We went to the parking lot at St. Robert's. We walked through it maybe 8 times, and then we ran through it maybe 15 times just for this play, because there's all this ball. We didn't complete one pass,
We gave them the time to throw the ball, and they had a good athlete to throw the ball, and a good athlete to catch the ball. He was behind our secondary, and my hat's off to them for executing, whether they could get it in practice to work or not. Maybe it was better it didn't work in practice.
I would say 50 years later, that was a great football team. Both teams were very good. I think St. James, and I will go back and tell everybody this, and nobody's paying me to say this either, I still think St. James was probably the best football team in high school I ever played against, and I think it was probably one of the better football teams to ever be in the Catholic League.
Kenrick stood there toe-to-toe, and they let you know that you guys are in a football game. We don't want to hear about Chester, St. James, Bulldogs. You're here in a football game, and that's. I think the city championship was actually won at Villanova University that day, really, not at Franklin Field.
When we won that game, we went from a very good team to a great team because we beat a great team when we played Kenrick.
Frankfurt wasn't to be taken lightly at all, and really it's only in retrospect that you look back and they were purely outmatched, size-wise. We were a much bigger team than they were, and but at the time, we weren't looking at any of that. We knew we had one more game to win, and they were the best of the public league. So we don't know a whole lot about the public league, but if they're the best, guess what? They're the best.
We wanted to be at Franklin Field. All of a sudden, it just started Franklin Field, Franklin Field, Franklin Field, and you had the whole team it just got to a fever pitch, and they jumping, chanting, and you had this electric feel.
It was a bitterly cold day down there at City Championship, and we played well. I mean, it was just one of those games where you couldn't do anything wrong, even if, I had my hands on 2 or 3 balls that day and dropped them because of the cold. And remember, Bobby Ewing comes up and gets in my face and says, "Billy, catch the ball, make the play." And I said, "Coach, you got it, Coach." I said, he said, "I don't want to hear about it, it's cold." He says, "Everybody's cold, but not a lot of everybody was catching the ball either. Offensive receivers or defensive personnel were catching the ball." Talk about joy, talk about ecstasy when it ended, because, like I said, it was a process.
It was just the next game on their schedule. Happened to be the undefeated season, happened to be at historic Franklin Field, and happened to be for the whole thing, but they just went about their business. And this guy, I forget, was it Haig or something like that? The big write-up and the pictures all over the Inquirer. And the picture the next day was St. James kids shaking his hand as he's wiping the tears from under his helmet. So
it was one of those years, and I'm sure every team could put it on their wall. They got a team hanging up there that was better than anything they ever had before, you know? You get that. Ours happened to all come to the same school at the same time, you know? I think it's the greatest high school team that I've ever seen.
Well, in Delaware County history, there's nobody better. Anybody that saw that team from that era, before Ridley or any of those teams or whoever, even the good Strathaven teams, that St. James team was so good, so much. They were number one.
It carries with you, with your life, how you look at things, that nothing's impossible, that hard work pays off. Having a great team, comrades, is probably the biggest part of that, because no man can do it by himself.
That built our character. That made us who we are today. That gave us a sense of responsibility, a sense of integrity going forward in our lives.
You know what stands out most is the camaraderie. It's the beauty of the game. It seems like to me like yesterday. There's a bond that forms and develops when you're a part of something great like this team we played on. That's the best thing about it, is the camaraderie.
Yeah, as luck would have it, and the good Lord looked on us, and yeah, we did it. And to be perfect, not many teams get a chance to be perfect, and I'm glad we were one.
I didn't realize how important those lessons I was learning until 25 or 30 years later. It helped define me. It helped define me in the FBI. It helped define me as a man, as a husband, as a father, and I'm emotional about it.
We did something that's not been done. And from a St. James perspective, can never be done again. It was a great group of guys. If you can say we loved each other, we did. We may have pushed each other's buttons at different times, but we always got the right results when it was all said and done. And it was truly a rewarding time in my life, and I would never give it back.
Get that first handoff, make it look like we're reversing to our left. Okay, Kozarski's going to fake like he's blocking, time this up, come back around, get a handoff from Warrington. Warrington's going to Kozarski's going to push the corner here. In the meantime, Kevin Darrett's just going to sneak out the back door. All these guys are going to be pursuing to the ball, and he'll be wide open.